all the folks who are still ahead of this, your patience. There's going to be a lot of ifs and maybes and some questions on this because this is not a standard tornado setup. And so even as meteorologists, we've looked at a lot of these thunderstorms over the years. This is a challenge on radar alone to say that's exactly where it is and this is where it's going to go next. So for most of us at this moment, we're still in the waiting and see. And for most of us, the gusty winds that we have out there just out of these thunderstorms themselves are notable and could potentially cause some damage. Even on my way into work a little bit ago, there was some tree damage out there due to some of these wind gusts that we have. At this moment, the wind gust in Oxford out of the north and west, a special update coming from that site in the last couple minutes, 46 miles per hour. And so strong winds, you can see that change in wind direction there. That is the cold front moving in, and as that cold front moves in with it, it undercuts these. So as soon as this clears Oxford, as soon as this clears your location there in Lafayette County, your tornado threat is done because the rotation, the warmer air that it needs to ingest to keep a tornado like this going, it can't suck that in after the cold front comes in. And so some of these damage reports we've been getting so far will be from straight line winds, even though there's been a little rotation, because it's difficult to get that rotation. Believe it or not, it's a difficult dance to get it to form officially a tornado. So the National Weather Service in Memphis continuing the tornado warning for Lafayette County. They have adjusted that warning just a little. Let's go ahead and zoom it in. And what they have done, and I think what we kind of anticipated would happen, they've now eliminated Oxford from that tornado warning simply because the part of that thunderstorm showing the rotation has now moved far enough north and east so we can bring you out of your tornado safe place if you live in Oxford. The Kiel community there, this is not pixel to pixel wind change. It is strong enough that, and honestly, this has been one of our more sustained rotations. Most of this evening it's been 1 or 2 scans, it's there and then it's gone. This one's still showing up there at this moment, and it has for probably the last 5 or 6 scans, which is more impressive than most of these thunderstorms have been. The path on this, you take it in the direction of Myrtle, and we're looking toward possibly Cotton Plant and some locations that direction. Now, no guarantees this is a tornado. It has definitely broadened out just a little bit. And as that broadening occurs, it has to be tight. It has to be pixel to pixel. It's not just rotation up in the thunderstorm. That is happening because of the way the atmosphere is structured today. But it has to be that pixel to pixel wind change to actually produce the tornado. So going with about 65, I'm going to up that. John, can we safely go 70 on this?
So I do believe so. These storms are going at a very good pace.
Okay, so we'll go 70 miles per hour on that forward motion on this. Thankfully, it looks like even the last scan, it's weakened just a little bit more. At that motion, we would have it in 7 minutes into the Darden community. We'd be looking at Myrtle in about 11 minutes. And Blue Mountain, if it held together, in about 18 minutes. And Ripley, kind of on the north side of this, at about 23 minutes. I think Myrtle closest to in the track of this, though it has had a little erratic path. It's pulled a little more north over the last scan or two than it previously had. Analyzing, and we're just gonna have to take a moment here and let's look along this line ahead because things change quickly. When a storm's moving 70 miles an hour, that's more than a mile a minute. And I do show a little. We're gonna look at this a couple different radars here near Faulkner there, and you can see one rotation there near Ripley at this moment as well. Let's go ahead and John, double check that report coming in, the positioning on that in a moment here. I'll bring you in on that. Okay. Right. Near Ripley there, that's still fairly broad rotation. Let's see if the Memphis radar has a better grab on it. Still shows up. We'll have to watch this pretty closely. One area there near Ripley, one south of Blue Mountain as well. I mean, there's enough strong winds aloft on this that we're going to get some brief rotations aloft. It's just a question of whether or not they all make it down to the surface. So current time is 10:30 p.m. Meteorologist Matt Laubhan alongside meteorologist John DeLusick. Tornado warning does continue for Lafayette County until 10:45 p.m. You'll notice that our other warnings popped off the map there, set to expire at 10:30. Weather Service is going to have to make a determination as to whether or not to extend any warnings for those locations here in a minute. And you notice even back behind here all these bright pinks and greens. That indicates some of the strong winds associated, not necessarily with rotation, but just with the front moving in. And the strong winds with that will be 45, 50 miles per hour. So we're going to have some sporadic damage. Make sure if you are ahead of this still in Algoma, Pontotoc, Bruce, down for Houston, Guntown, Tupelo, Boonville, Corinth, it might be a little too late, but we definitely, if we didn't have all of our decorations taken care of and made sure that they were in good shape last night, you got to do it this evening before it comes through, because they're definitely going to blow around, and certainly it's still been pretty breezy at this point. Now I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLuca. I have you on camera here for a moment. And John, looking at this latest report coming in, what are your thoughts?
West of Corinth, that will by about roughly 10 miles. I can see the cell there. Right now, again, reports are that it is a funnel cloud.
Okay, but that's unconfirmed at this moment. Is that correct?
Unconfirmed. Well, it says I think the confirmation is spotted at 5 miles west-northwest of Theo, which is roughly, again, a good about 10-15 miles west of roughly Corinth area. Does not have a visual on the funnel, but nothing on the ground.
Okay.
No, it does have a visual on the funnel, but I cannot confirm anything on the ground. And that was, again, just a little while ago at about 10:28.
So 3 minutes old.
3 minutes ago. One thing I was handed over from Mike, Leisha Faulkner from the city of Tupelo here, the information director, did, would like us, if we can mention, that the shelters are open here in Tupelo in case that's needed, just in case that's needed.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the list of the...
go ahead and do that real quick.
The address list real quick. 5 shelters are open in the city of Tupelo. Those are 843 North Front Street, 3288 Willie Moore Road on the south side of Tupelo. You're looking at 2629 West Main Street, that's on the west side. In the Joyner neighborhood, 1199 Joyner, and also 401 Elvis Presley Drive. So we got 5 shelters that are open just in case we may need something like that here in Tupelo here in a little while.
And what we will say for a lot of folks, and we've had a lot of big tornadoes over the years. We have them around here. You definitely need to be thinking about where you would go. Certainly around your home. You can, most cases, shelter in place from these kind of thunderstorms. And if you're in a sturdy structure, one that's built with a solid foundation, you're probably going to be okay. If you have a storm shelter on site, certainly that would be something that we would go to. I don't think you necessarily have to camp out at these other shelters all night long in this sort of setup. The exception to the rule, and we always have to say this, is if you live in a car or a mobile home. And in those situations, wind can get below, it can turn that structure over, and we definitely don't want that. So something to consider there if you live in a car or mobile home. That changes things a little bit. Let's check the rotation on the thunderstorm over top of Ripley, and then we're going to go back southwest on this line here a little more. We still show maybe some weak rotation there in Ripley, but the latest scans not nearly what they were 1 or 2 scans ago. The rotation that extends back into and has prompted the tornado warning for Lafayette County there. Now latest scan there, actually just south of the Cornersville area. Now with that kind of rotation on this, I do not think that the Weather Service in Memphis is likely to extend this. Let's get a track on that at this speed. And honestly, I have a hard time at this moment believing that that could still be a tornado, but we'll have to watch it. Doesn't mean it still couldn't have some enhanced wind damage with it. Myrtle, we're talking 7 minutes for you. The Bluff community, 16 minutes on this thunderstorm here. Certainly monitoring things very, very closely. Now, it does look like the National Weather Service has gone ahead on that thunderstorm we were looking at just a moment ago up near Corinth, and they have issued a severe thunderstorm warning on it. But one of the things we've mentioned a number of times this year, and one of the nice features the Weather Service has added in recent years to their warnings, is the ability to issue a severe thunderstorm warning, but then say the words tornado possible on it. And because of that funnel report that John and I were talking about a moment ago, that is the reason they have gone with that determination on this. They haven't been able to confirm it. This is not a particularly strong storm, but any thunderstorms we have tonight are going to work to enhance the wind. You already have winds that are 50, almost 60 miles per hour just with the front. And then if you get a thunderstorm in place and you're adding only 10, 15 miles per hour to that, that's where you get up that 65, 70 mile per hour range. And so you just have to be careful with it as well. And so a 70 mile per hour wind gust can cause damage just like a 70 mile per hour brief spin-up style tornado. And that's the wind is the reason why we have to be careful with this. So the latest scan on this, the latest track on this, and I'm not going to clip Corinth with my initial one. I'll put one on here in a minute, but I do think that that rotation stays just a little bit north of certainly the downtown Corinth area. Some of those newer neighborhoods on the northern side of town there certainly could be impacted, but we're talking most of those locations up into McNairy County, Tennessee, and folks up into Jackson, Tennessee's viewing area, so we're not really going to touch on that as much. Let's go ahead and clip Corinth then as a result, so we can get a specific time on there. And Corinth, we're talking 5 minutes or less. Let's be in a sturdy place, a sturdy structure. I hesitate to use the words tornado safe place, but the reality is we have had at least a funnel report out of this thunderstorm. This thunderstorm in the past has caused at least wind damage. So if you're in a sturdy structure, and by that I mean most homes, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. Our meteorologist John DeLusick with a storm report on this on these thunderstorms this evening. John, what you got?
Jeffrey from the North Mississippi Chasers and Storm Spotters reports the power lines down on the west side of Oxford now. So that's another little bit of damage report coming in from the Oxford area. Earlier, about 10-15 minutes ago, we reported that power being out on the west side. Now there are reports of power lines down on the west side of Oxford.
Okay, so power lines down the west side of Oxford, that would be where that report of obviously power outages came from. John, I appreciate that report there. Go ahead and make sure we relay that along to the Weather Service, the folks there using NWS Chat or Twitter, that in that regard. And if you, by the way, have storm reports, you can tweet them at myself, at WTVA Matt. If you live in any of the counties we've mentioned here so far that's in Memphis's area, you can tweet directly at them your storm report. It's at NWS Memphis, at NWS Memphis on Twitter there. They look at those reports, they try to verify those reports, and we appreciate all of those that you can give us on evenings such as this, or really any day for that matter. The Weather Service then, and in the last few moments here, has chosen to go with a severe thunderstorm warning on this. I was trying to get the time to pop up here, but my computer is really focused on the tornado warning there, so let's go ahead and pull that off for a moment. But they've gone with a severe thunderstorm warning instead because, yes, and this is probably more clear on the precipitation mode right over top of Etta than it ever was when it was a tornado warned just a little bit ago. This is about as crisp as any storm is going to get tonight, and so I do show that rotation over top of Etta, but it is one that is going to track pretty close to New Albany and some folks north of there. So Etta, it's there. Myrtle, we're talking about 6 minutes or so. New Albany, about 10 minutes. The Bluff community in about 15 minutes. Smalco there, we're in about 8 minutes or so for you if it continues at this speed here. And so let's look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar from a couple different sites. We're not going to have a good vantage point. We're looking a little higher up. And in fact, and just in the last moment here, I would probably place my rotation more over top of the Darden community there. Now, it's pixel-to-pixel wind shear of 29 miles per hour. That's not over the top, but that is a zone where we have seen this try to wrap up something and at least had some power lines that were down on this thunderstorm from this exact spot west. So is this a tornado? Maybe not, but it definitely is some rotation showing up on this, and it's definitely some stronger wind gusts as this moves toward the north and east. So here's what we're going to do. Now that this has exited our tornado warning right there for Lafayette County, even though that goes until 10:45, we're going to cut you off on NBC WTVA, on WLOV, and MeTV and This TV. But what we want to do, and I want to do this back in the control room if we can, I'd like to stay on ABC WTVA for some folks who want just a little bit of extended coverage, just in case this spins back up and something. And if we feel all of a sudden this has spun back up and produced a tornado, we're going to come back on all the other channels. But let's continue some coverage on ABC here for a moment. Let's drop off the rest. Keep it here for the best coverage. And go ahead and let me know in my ear when we have trimmed those. Okay, so we're still on ABC WTVA for a severe thunderstorm warning. Still that tornado possible zone on this, and that's the reason why we're monitoring this, and we're going to keep on this for a few more minutes here. It's right over top of Etta. It's moving toward the north and east. Speed is extremely fast. We're talking 65 to 70 miles per hour. And while this might not ever actually produce a tornado, we do expect it will sporadically produce wind damage as it moves that direction, because it might just be adding an extra 10, 15, 20 miles per hour on top of what's already strong winds, and it works to focus some of those winds that are strong aloft closer to the surface as it has some of that rotation there. And by the way, if you lose your coverage here, if we drop off here, we are going to try to continue doing some coverage on Facebook Live as well as WTVA.com/live as necessary. And we're not going to probably continue this forever here on ABC WTVA. We'll probably drop off this here in a few minutes as well if the storm continues to not produce a tornado. If it looks like it might strengthen back and do that, then we'll have more coverage here and continue with that. But right now we want to look a little closer here as to exactly where we're at on this. I do show what you can see, a little bit of an inflow here. There's probably where our rotation is near County Road 515 in western Union County. We're watching closely for folks there in New Albany, for Myrtle, for Pumpkin Center there as this continues to move toward the east with that extremely fast pace. Let's look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. And in doing that, I mean, I still have a couple of areas here where I do have at least pixel-to-pixel wind change in the realm of about 57 miles per hour. If we go up a couple of scans on this, and that's important because that allows us to check and see what is not being transferred to the surface. There's still some stronger wind gusts there, but these also aren't terribly tall thunderstorms. So that becomes more difficult. Let's go out of Memphis here for a moment. And just with the way their radar is working at the moment, we're kind of at the edge of one of their zones. I would now put my circulation using the latest scan there. I'm going to check from Memphis first. Yeah, I would put it right along County Road 51. Sort of advanced it back there. It's about to cross I-22. Certainly if you know some folks who are in New Albany planning to go toward Memphis, toward Hickory Flat, that direction, let's delay them going for about another 15 minutes. It's going to be strong crosswinds regardless. In fact, the north winds, as it shifts through, we're dealing with southerly winds now. It's going to quickly shift west and then out of the northwest as this storm moves through. And so certainly will be some strong wind gusts with that as well. We'll wait for that next scan to come up here in just a moment to double check that. Let's go up toward the storm that was impacting locations closer to Corinth, and that storm just a little north, not overly impressive. Let's see if we can get Memphis to give us a better angle on that. We have to, when we're starting to deal here, Alcorn County, juggle between a couple of sites. Now that one looks a little more impressive. The wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, a couple of areas there where there's a little interaction. But nothing I can say is imminently a tornado at this moment. But we're also not going to have a good lock on it because these thunderstorms, the top of these thunderstorms today is not super duper tall. What does that mean? Well, when we assess the top of the thunderstorm, we have to look at this. I mean, we're dealing with the top of this somewhere in the neighborhood of, I mean, what? Less than 30,000 feet there. And so by the time you're looking at this from the Memphis radar site, you're not looking 30,000 feet up, but you might be looking a mile or more above the surface. And so it's difficult then to say with something that's a shallow circulation exactly where that is just using Doppler radar. And that's why we're watching like a hawk our discussion with the National Weather Service, with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. We appreciate those folks for helping us up there as well. And certainly we need to be in a sturdy structure in Corinth, but if you live on the north side of Corinth in particular, we're watching that, but I would pretty much have it right along the Tennessee state line if there were to be something. And at this moment, I'm not saying that there is, because there probably isn't, but if there was an enhancement, maybe where we got an extra 65, maybe 70 mile per hour wind as opposed to a tornado, be right there along the Tennessee state line, about to move up in the Jackson, Tennessee's coverage area. So we're going to go ahead and hand that over to them. For folks who do live in northern sections of Tishomingo County, this is close, but I don't even know if that storm itself is even going to cross into Tishomingo County. It might just barely clip folks there in Kendrick, but that might also be pushing it just a little bit. So let's reset for a moment here. We have tornado watches that do include a good chunk of the WTVA viewing area. Those watches in effect until 3 o'clock in the morning for the potential that some thunderstorms could rotate, possibly try to produce what we call a spin-up style tornado, which is very short time frame, might only be on the ground a minute or two, if even that. So that's a possibility we have to monitor out of these as we go throughout the overnight hours. But more than anything, it's strong gusty winds. And we showed this a minute ago, and I think it merits showing it again just to double check those current wind gusts, and they're all pretty substantial out of this. We're now down to 31 mile per hour gusts out of Oxford there, but if we went back just a few minutes here, those gusts were substantially stronger as that tornado-warned storm moved through, up to 46 miles per hour, and you can see that rapid shift from the south at 10:05 to the northwest and at 46 miles per hour by 10:18. So that's that front moving through, and all these areas in pink and purple here are strong wind gusts that are probably in excess of 45 to nearly 50 miles per hour. So it's going to be blown around like the dickens out there, and it certainly is ahead of this as well. And that is our main question, concern, impact that we're looking at. And then you get these occasional, maybe a tornado's trying to spin up sort of situations. So let's come in to Union County close. I'm going to go back and catch the southwest part of this just to make sure we don't have anything getting interesting there. And then if at that point we don't have anything that looks imminently like a tornado, then I'm probably going to drop off and we'll stay a little bit on Facebook Live and possibly WTVA.com at that point. Okay, so we put it along I-22 at this moment. Let's check the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar from a couple different angles here. I could argue that there are 2 areas there where maybe something's going on, but in either case, the more impressive radar was out of Columbus Air Force Base, which is located, they use it in Columbus Air Force Base. Technically, it's operated by them, but it's located in Monroe County. And 28, 40 miles per hour, neither one of those is probably a tornado. What that probably is that's enhancing the straight line winds, and that's something I haven't really shown today, and maybe we should, just to kind of emphasize that. Some of the straight line winds on these that could be, let's see if we can get a couple angles on that are, well, it's because of the angle at the radar side, it's not going to give us quite what I was hoping for there, but you can still see a couple areas where there are circulation on that. I'm going to leave it in the wind mode. We're going to go down this line just to make sure there isn't something else that is getting organized back towards, say, Bruce, Water Valley, or Coffeyville back in here. And John, I'll bring you in on this for a moment while we're looking at radar here for a moment. And I don't particularly see anything on here that imminently looks like it's a tornado. Do you?
What you're showing on right now, let me take a look at it exactly a little closer here. I do not see anything that's standing out. Even that weak circulation that was just briefly, something showed up briefly at Water Valley. What would you say that? Well,
yeah, I mean, maybe it was
something.
For like a scan,
Yeah.
something there, and I was kind of looking at that too. But I mean, that's not anything that's overly organized at this point.
Just to mention, Joel talked to Joel. He could not find any damage. He checked around the Oxford area. The last reports from Oxford here in the last 15 minutes. Again, with the word possible tornado being used from the downed power lines and also power being out over in the west side of Oxford. Also, Joel wanted to mention that as of 10 minutes ago, his temperature already down in Oxford area after that frontal passage, what you mentioned about 10:05 frontal passage for the Oxford area, he's already down at 44, and that was 10 minutes ago.
Whew,
I mean, that is a rapid drop.
That's impressive, and that's our other concern, John. And double check, and you might have to go to the Weather Service site, just double check this. Is the winter weather advisory still in effect? It was not popping up for me a minute ago when I tried to get it up at the top of the newscast, and I'll have you go probably to Weather 1 for that.
Yes,
yeah, there it is.
yes.
Okay, it is still in effect. It was just my computer doing what computers sometimes do there. So yeah, this is the other impact that we're concerned with. It's possible on the backside of this that those cold temperatures could possibly make some of this try to refreeze overnight or change over to some kind of wintry mix. The moisture and the cold air are somewhat out of phase, and even though there's just this littlest bit of wintry something on the backside of this right up there, I just don't feel overly confident we're going to get a ton of that down here, because the zone we're looking at back here to the west has a lot of dry air that's mixing in with that. You can see also our box for our tornado watch has been cut in a little bit here. As soon as this line comes through, your tornado threat's done. So you can change the channel, or you can go do something else and not worry about it at that point there. All that said, I do think we are going to suspend our coverage on TV, simply because now we have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. While the mention from the Weather Service in either case is tornado possible, at this instant, I don't know that I can say tornado imminent, happening in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, coming up. So that's something. I think what we'll probably do is go ahead and suspend coverage because of that. Just double check one more time the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler. Well, no, we won't. We're going to stick with this for a few more minutes here, because that has intensified a little bit more. So New Albany, you're in the clear at this moment, but we're looking north along County Road 115 near the Bluff community there. Of course, Highway 15 right there. So it's pretty much right over top of Highway 15, so I should probably reference that first. At this moment, the pixel-to-pixel wind change, as we saw just a moment ago there, is about 70 miles per hour. I'm going to make sure that I got the highest number we can get on that. We caught that the first time, it looks like. And so let's track that rotation that, while not a tornado at this moment, is kind of looking a little more impressive, and like some of them that have been upgraded to tornado warnings before. And that's kind of the angle we have to take. Is it straight line wind damage we're getting out of some of these, or is it actually a bona fide tornado? Is this just enhancing some of the winds at the surface? And certainly it will be a wind enhancement there. Dumas, though, in either case, you have about 8 minutes. We need to get to our to a sturdy structure. and hopefully your home is a sturdy structure. And if it's not, we want to make sure we get to a building like that ahead of this, that you could qualify as a sturdy structure. If your home's a mobile home, then that wouldn't qualify in this scenario. So Jumpertown, 18 minutes for you. Gaston in 20 minutes. But in the next 3 minutes will be Bluff, and in about the next 6 minutes it'll be to the Claryville area. That we have had a radar update in just the last moment here, and this is how fast this is moving. I think it's just blowing my mind a little bit here. We need to double check the actual, I mean, the Weather Service is going with 70 miles per hour on the motion here. That's what we have on our track, but I swear it's moving faster than that. Let's track. Let's get something on here to double check that speed. So Cotton Plant, it's pretty much right over top of you, just a little north and east of that, and a lot of folks know where that is this time of year because of the displays that they put on. Okay, so current time is 10:51. I'd have about 13 miles since 10:40. Okay, so John, what's 6 times, well, that's 60, that'd be about 70 miles an hour. Okay, that'd be about 70 miles an hour, maybe just a little bit faster than that. 75?
Well, Siggy said 6 times 13 is 78.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
wow,
so it's,
that is-
okay, so it is going,
very-
golly, I can't remember the last time we had a storm that was moving 78 miles an hour. So, okay. So at that speed, that explains why it's getting through just a little bit faster
They've
there.
issued a tornado
and they
warning,
did
right?
just issue a tornado warning on this thunderstorm. Let's go back on all 5, please. Back in the control room. Let me know when we're there. You can punch the open if you want to at that point, and I'll just be quiet when you punch the open. Okay. And so we'll be back on all 5 channels here in just a moment here. WTVA Chief Meteorologist Matt Laubhan alongside Meteorologist John DeLusick. A tornado warning now has been issued once again, and we'll want to go back to weather to there. Thank you very much. Tornado warning issued once again. This time it's for sections of northern Union, southern Tippah, as well as I do think this includes Apprentice, and this doesn't look like it clipped all Corinth County, but it's awful close there. So we do expect weather calls going out for all these locations at this moment. Meteorologist John DeLusick here with me at this moment. No reports of actual official tornado touchdowns on this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Just as you were mentioning, that circulation right around the Cotton Plant area, that's most likely what prompted it. And again, no, as of right now, nothing coming out from the National Weather Service. That's good news. I'm looking at the Facebook feeds and Twitter feeds. Nothing being reported there either. Good
okay,
news, but it's nighttime. You know.
It's nighttime, and it's out of that abundance of caution, being that it's nighttime, that the Weather Service has gone with this tornado warning. We were about to get out of coverage about 5 minutes ago on ABC WTVA, and this storm started picking back up. And so near the Bluff community, just east of that, tornado warning issued for you. Dumas, 4 minutes or less. One of the things we figured out a couple moments ago is these have picked up some speed. They're now at about 75 miles per hour, which is just kind of mind-blowing. When you have a thunderstorm moving 75 miles per hour, that means it's well less than a mile a minute. And so for every minute that passes, it just moves so quickly. And so when it has that much forward motion, that tells you a couple things. Number one, how strong the winds are aloft and how easy it is to kind of push some of that down closer to the surface. And so that's the reason why they have issued this tornado warning for this thunderstorm here. And John, now I know a new storm report coming in. I want you to verify which storm that is there. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's talk about tornado safe place and rules and stuff like that on this thunderstorm here for folks that are in northern Union, sections of Tippah and western Prentiss County. Sturdy structures where we need to be. On the lowest floor, find a room in the middle, turn up the volume on your TV, wrap up in blankets and pillows, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. This is a nighttime storm, and any nighttime storm, there's a lot of questions to what we're looking at. And on this thunderstorm, right now, we have not had a tornado that has been spotted. Radar does not confirm debris, but it does have rotation. And the thunderstorms tonight will spin something up in 30, 45 seconds and might be gone just as quick. And so we're in that mode where it has spun it up, and that's the reason they have issued this tornado warning. We want to be careful, we want to be safe, and it's moving fast, and so we have to be in that tornado safe place. Speaking of debris, let's just double check and make sure that we don't have something going on here. And looking at the tornado debris mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, I do not have anything I believe to be tornado debris where that circulation is. That circulation, you might see a little black dot down there. Well, let's Okay, let's just double check that. So stick with me at home for a moment here. Let's double check that tornado debris mode. Okay, that would be the scan as of 10:55. Is that correct? Okay. 10:52. Okay, so let's go ahead and double check the wind mode. There's a very slow way in which we do this behind the scenes here just to make sure. I don't think that that little black dot we had there was debris, but we're definitely going to have to watch it closely. The wind mode has now the circulation up to 81 miles per hour. Even on a normal day, 81 miles per hour. We're taking this very, very seriously. So if you live near the Molino area, live north of New Albany, we need to be in our tornado safe place. Now, if you live in New Albany proper, you're good to go, you're fine. We'll watch stuff back to the west of you, but this one near Dumas, we have to be in that tornado safe place. And honestly, based on the position of where this thunderstorm is at this moment, it leads me to believe it's pretty much over top of you at this exact moment here. So let's go ahead and get the latest storm track on this. And Dumas now is the time. 370 is where this is, and I've driven up through Dumas on this road a number of times. They have a really cool park. We've taken our daughter to a couple times there. This is probably over top of Dumas at this exact second here. And is it a tornado? I can't confirm that, but we're not going to be able to confirm it until we get those damage reports, and it has spun up. All those things lead me to believe that you need to be in your tornado safe place if you live near Dumas, right near County Road 750 is where that circulation is at this moment. And at the very least, this is 70-mile-per-hour winds moving in, and so that's going to cause some tree damage. And so we have to be very, very careful because of that. And so tracking that forward with the new latest location there, and then we need to go up to Alcorn County where they have issued a tornado warning just within the last couple of moments. Of course, Dumas, it's now in Jumpertown, 10 minutes. We're watching for the Blackland community. This is probably just a little north of you. Let's get you in the track here just in case it juts south. Let's catch Boonville just in case. And we'll be talking Blackland in 8 minutes, Osborne Creek in 10 minutes. John, I'm going to bring you in. Let's talk about that report.
All right.
Go.
Just looking at the unconfirmed, the National Weather Service is still keeping it as an unconfirmed, quote-unquote, report. But this was a report just a few minutes ago from the Kossuth area, or 1 mile west-southwest of Kossuth, which would figure out almost being that little bit of circulation that you're seeing there that's prompted that tornado warning to be issued. You can see just that now to the southeast of Kossuth, a very weak one, not as strong as one over near Dumas, but still showing up. And that most likely, according to this unconfirmed report, again, they're monitoring it. They're looking at a tornado was briefly reported being seen within the light illumination.
And that's the challenge, you know, it is a lightning flash, it just happens to be over a town or at the angle where you can see it. There's a lot of questions, but what there isn't a question of is that, well, first off, we can't confirm tornado debris at this moment, but tornado debris is not a predictive tool. That's something that after the fact, it's like, oh, look, there is debris. So if you live in Corinth, I know you're on the north side of this, in Biggersville, we definitely have to be in our tornado safe place. If you know folks traveling along 45 between Corinth and Biggersville, even if this is not a tornado that ends up forming for you, what this is going to end up being are wind gusts that are 65 to 70 miles per hour. And so because they're going to quickly shift from the south more toward the west, high-profile vehicles, folks driving tractor trailers, you're going to have to worry about one of those being knocked off. And we're talking just mere moments here before the northern part of this thunderstorm, which is not the part that includes the rotation, but certainly is going to be some stronger wind gusts, moves into the Corinth area. So let's track this. Let's keep that 70. Let's go 75. That's been the speed. 75. I'm going to show it right pretty much at Corinth at this moment, moving toward the north and east. So Corinth pretty much now. The Jobs community at 11:02, Farmington at 11:03, 11:04 to Strickland, and Glenn at 11:05. Tornado possible out of this, reported to be observed by that spotter report, and you got to go with it at night. And so looking at that wind mode, I would show it right along County Road. Let's zoom in a little closer here. Now we're just southeast of Kossuth there, County Road 512 is where, right over top of Allentown, you have rotation that could potentially be a tornado. You go back a couple scans, that was definitely more impressive. And so that's when that report near the high